Most people over 50 wake up with a familiar sensation. It's not the sharp pain of an injury, but a quiet stiffness that greets them before the day begins. Knees that used to bend effortlessly now resist slightly. Hands that once opened jars with ease feel heavier, slower, reluctant. You might tell yourself it's just aging, that everyone feels it eventually. But what if that isn't entirely true? What if something you eat, something you've believed was harmless or even healthy, is quietly fueling this stiffness every single day? Imagine your joints like small, intricate engines. They're built to move smoothly, to flex and extend without friction. But over time, invisible irritants begin to sneak into that system. You don't feel them immediately. They don't announce their arrival with a dramatic symptom. Instead, they linger in your bloodstream, your tissues, and finally, your joints. One morning, you wake up feeling a little tighter. A few weeks later, the stairs seem steeper. Months later, the word arthritis starts echoing faintly in your doctor's office. And through it all, you keep eating the same foods that silently feed this inflammation, unaware that your diet has become your body's quiet saboteur. It's a strange betrayal, isn't it? The idea that something as ordinary as breakfast, something that feels safe and comforting, could be slowly setting fire to the very parts of your body that help you move. Most people think inflammation is obvious: red skin, swelling, or pain. But hidden inflammation works differently. It's invisible. It can live inside your joints, nerves, or blood vessels for years without clear warning signs. And while you may not notice it in the beginning, your body certainly does. Every bite you take sends signals, tiny biochemical messages that tell your body how to respond. Some foods whisper peace, calming your immune system and promoting healing. Others shout war, triggering an immune reaction that spreads through your bloodstream, settling into your weakest areas, often your knees, hips, and hands. And if you're over 50, your body's ability to extinguish those small fires starts to decline. The result is what many doctors call silent inflammation. But what you feel is something much simpler: stiffness, swelling, fatigue, or that dull ache that never quite goes away. But here's the part that surprises most people. It's not always the obvious culprits, not just the fast food, the desserts, or the fried snacks. Sometimes it's foods you've been told are healthy for decades: a certain breakfast cereal, a salad dressing you love, or that nightly glass of wine you believe is helping your heart. These foods may not cause immediate pain, but they quietly influence your body's chemistry, tipping the balance toward inflammation. Picture this. Inside your joint, there's a soft cushion called cartilage, smooth, strong, and designed to protect your bones. Think of it like a shock absorber. Every step, every movement, relies on its ability to stay hydrated and resilient. But when inflammatory compounds enter your system, compounds released by certain foods, they change the environment of your joints. Enzymes begin to break down that cushion faster than your body can repair it. The result? Tiny fragments of cartilage trigger immune cells, those same defenders that fight infection. But instead of attacking bacteria, they begin attacking your joint tissue. It's your own defense system turning against you, one meal at a time. You might be wondering, how could something like this happen from food? The answer lies in what's called the inflammatory cascade. When you consume foods high in certain oils, sugars, or chemical additives, your body releases cytokines, small proteins that act like messengers of inflammation. In moderation, they're essential for healing, but in excess, they behave like an alarm system stuck in the on position. These cytokines travel through your bloodstream, amplifying inflammation in areas already under stress. If your knees are worn from years of walking or sports, that's where they go. If your wrists are tired from decades of work, they settle there. And while you might feel it most in your joints, the truth is, this inflammation starts in your gut. Inside your digestive system lives an entire ecosystem of bacteria that influences nearly every aspect of your health. When you eat anti-inflammatory foods like leafy greens, berries, or omega-3 rich fish, that ecosystem thrives, supporting your immune system and reducing inflammation. But when you feed it with certain oils, processed grains, or artificial sweeteners, the balance shifts. Harmful bacteria multiply, your gut lining weakens, and small food particles escape into your bloodstream, a phenomenon doctors call leaky gut. Once that happens, your immune system responds as if you're under attack, and every response adds another layer of inflammation. Now imagine this cycle repeating, not once, not twice, but every day for years. You eat something your body reacts to. Inflammation builds, your joints grow slightly more tender. Your energy fades just a little sooner in the afternoon. You sleep, thinking tomorrow you'll feel better. But tomorrow brings the same pattern, the same trigger, the same hidden reaction. It's not dramatic enough to send you rushing to the hospital, but it's constant enough to erode your comfort and mobility over time. Doctors often call inflammation the root of aging, and for good reason. Studies have linked chronic low-grade inflammation to nearly every major age-related condition: heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, and yes, arthritis. But joint inflammation carries a unique emotional weight. It affects how you move through your day, how independent you feel, how free you are to do what you love. It can make you hesitate before standing up, before walking, before living fully. And yet, the good news, the part that rarely gets enough attention, is that it's reversible. The same foods that once ignited this inflammation can be replaced by foods that heal, restore, and protect. But before we get to those, it's important to understand how deceptive these triggers can be. Take a seemingly healthy snack bar. It might say natural or heart healthy on the package, but inside it's loaded with refined sugars and oils that your body interprets as an attack. Or consider a diet soda, 0 calories yet filled with chemicals that disrupt your gut bacteria and trigger immune reactions. Even certain vegetable oils, the kind that sound beneficial, can tip the scale toward inflammation when consumed regularly. Over time, this doesn't just affect your joints. It changes your blood chemistry, your energy levels, even your mood. Because inflammation doesn't stay in one place. It spreads quietly, influencing hormones, slowing metabolism, and making your body more sensitive to pain. That's why some people wake up one morning and say, "I feel inflamed all over." It's not their imagination. It's the accumulation of years of small internal fires, unaddressed and misunderstood. And here's another truth. Age doesn't cause inflammation. Lifestyle does. The reason people over 50 experience it more often isn't because the body wants to suffer, but because decades of small choices finally reach their tipping point. A few years of excess sugar here, a few decades of processed oils there, it all adds up. But it also means there's power in awareness. Because when you know which foods fan the flames, you can finally start cooling them down. Many patients describe the same transformation. "I didn't know how inflamed I felt until it went away." Once they remove those hidden triggers, something remarkable happens. Their morning stiffness fades, their energy stabilizes, their mood lifts. It's not magic, it's biology returning to balance. Think of your body like a garden. Inflammation is the weed that grows when the soil becomes neglected. You don't notice it at first. A little stiffness here, a sore knuckle there. But then the weeds start taking over, stealing nutrients from the plants that are meant to thrive. The longer you wait to pull them, the harder it becomes. The same applies to your joints. Once inflammation takes root, it feeds itself, one chemical signal at a time. But remove the cause, nurture the environment, and the garden begins to heal. This is why awareness matters, because many people over 50 think it's too late. They think inflammation is a permanent sentence, something they have to manage instead of something they can influence. But science tells a different story. The body is remarkably adaptable. Within days of removing certain inflammatory foods, your blood chemistry begins to shift. Cytokine levels drop. Your immune response calms. Your cartilage begins to receive better oxygen and nutrient flow. Pain that once felt inevitable starts to fade. Still, awareness is the first step, and sometimes it begins with a difficult realization that the foods we trust most are the ones quietly betraying us. It's not your fault. For decades, advertising and outdated nutrition guidelines have painted certain products as healthy: low-fat spreads, vegetable oils, packaged whole-grain snacks. But many of these contain compounds that irritate your body's inflammatory pathways. They may lower cholesterol on paper, but they raise inflammation in practice. And for someone over 50, that trade-off is costly. Every meal becomes an opportunity, either to feed inflammation or to fight it. The choice often comes down to information, not willpower. Because if you knew that a certain food you eat daily was making your knees ache, would you still choose it? Probably not. But most people don't have that knowledge. They're told to eat balanced meals without understanding what balance really means in the context of inflammation. The goal isn't to eliminate everything or live in fear of food. It's to become aware, to see your plate differently, to understand that beneath the surface of every bite lies chemistry. Some chemistry heals, some harms, and your joints, your mobility, your very sense of vitality depend on which one you choose more often. In the next moments, as we journey deeper into the science of these hidden triggers, you'll begin to see patterns, the foods that disguise themselves as healthy but quietly set your body's defenses into chaos. You'll learn why inflammation doesn't start in your joints but ends there. You'll understand how small daily choices, what you spread on your toast, what oil you use to cook, what beverage you sip in the afternoon, can shape the way your knees feel when you wake up tomorrow. Because inflammation is not random. It's a response, and every response has a reason. Once you uncover those reasons, you gain control again. You stop guessing, you stop blaming age, and you start healing. For now, just remember this. Your body isn't broken, it's communicating. That stiffness, that fatigue, that subtle ache, it's not weakness. It's a message, and that message can be understood and reversed. Because even after 50, your body wants balance, it wants vitality. It just needs you to stop feeding the fire. Let's go deeper. You already understand that inflammation doesn't just appear. It's built layer by layer from the inside out. Now it's time to expose the culprits, the everyday foods that silently build those layers until your joints begin to ache, swell, and resist motion. What makes this phase so deceptive is that these foods often hide under comforting labels: healthy, natural, or low-fat. But behind the marketing language lies chemistry that your immune system recognizes as danger. To understand why, we have to trace how each food interacts with your body on a molecular level, from the moment you take a bite to the moment your knees begin to stiffen the next morning. Let's start with something most people consume daily: vegetable oils. For decades, they've been praised as a heart-healthy alternative to butter or lard. But the science has shifted, and what it reveals is alarming. Many common vegetable oils, soybean, corn, sunflower, safflower, and canola, are loaded with omega-6 fatty acids. Your body needs some omega-6s for survival, but balance is key. The ideal ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fats in the human body should be around 2, 1 or 3, 1. Yet the modern diet has distorted that balance to nearly 20, 1. This imbalance doesn't just affect your heart, it fuels inflammation everywhere, especially in your joints. When omega-6 fats dominate, your body converts them into compounds called prostaglandins and leukotrienes, chemicals that act like gasoline on an inflammatory fire. Over time, they damage the protective cartilage in your knees, hands, and hips, making each movement a little more painful than the last. Now think about what happens when you cook with these oils. Heat oxidizes them, breaking their structure into reactive molecules that attack cell membranes. These oxidized fats don't just lose nutritional value, they become irritants. Once they enter your bloodstream, they trigger immune responses that can linger for days. That's why someone might eat fried food on Sunday and still feel swollen or stiff on Tuesday. The inflammation doesn't leave quickly. It circulates, repeating the damage in waves. And if you've been using these oils for years, the buildup becomes cumulative. Then comes sugar, the quiet destroyer that wears a friendly face. You know excess sugar contributes to weight gain, but its impact on your joints goes far deeper. When sugar enters your bloodstream, it attaches to proteins, forming compounds called AGEs, advanced glycation end products. The name sounds complicated, but their effect is simple. They accelerate aging. Inside your joints, AGEs stiffen collagen, the protein that gives your cartilage flexibility. The result? Your joints lose their natural cushioning. Movement becomes harsher, friction increases, and microscopic tears form in the cartilage lining. Your body detects those tears and responds with inflammation, sending immune cells to repair the area. But these cells, once activated, release enzymes that break down tissue even further. What started as repair turns into destruction. It's a vicious loop. Sugar feeds inflammation. Inflammation damages tissue. Tissue damage triggers more inflammation. Even foods that seem harmless, like flavored yogurts or breakfast cereals, can feed this process. Many are loaded with hidden sugars, sometimes disguised under names like dextrose, maltose, or syrup solids. Each spoonful may not seem dangerous, but over time, it's like dripping acid on stone. Slowly, persistently, it erodes the foundation of your joint health. Now consider refined grains, white bread, pasta, pastries, and even some whole grain products that have been stripped and re-enriched. These foods rapidly convert into glucose once digested, spiking your blood sugar and triggering insulin surges. Each spike activates inflammatory pathways in the body, leading to the same biochemical storm that sugar does. But refined grains also bring another problem: they lack fiber. Without enough fiber, your gut bacteria starve, allowing harmful species to thrive. These microbes release endotoxins, toxic molecules that leak into your bloodstream, triggering immune responses throughout your body. And again, your joints are among the first to suffer. There's a particular irony in all this. The very foods marketed to make life more convenient, pre-packaged meals, sweetened drinks, refined snacks, are the ones quietly slowing you down. Every bite that was meant to give energy instead steals it. Every flavor designed to satisfy ends up damaging. And the most dangerous part is how normal it all feels. You don't feel inflamed immediately after eating a muffin or drizzling dressing on your salad. The reaction is subtle, delayed, and cumulative, but not all inflammation comes from obvious sources. Some of it hides in foods we've been told are essential. Dairy, for instance. For many people, especially those over 50, dairy becomes a silent trigger. As we age, our bodies produce less lactase, the enzyme that digests lactose, the sugar in milk. Undigested lactose ferments in the gut, feeding bacteria that release gases and inflammatory compounds. This not only causes digestive discomfort, but can also provoke systemic inflammation. For those who are sensitive, casein, a protein found in dairy, can mimic gluten in the way it activates immune responses. It binds to receptors on immune cells, leading to the release of histamines and cytokines, the same messengers that make your joints ache after an injury. And then there's meat, not all meat, but specifically processed and grain-fed meats. When animals are fed on corn and soy, their fat composition shifts, becoming richer in inflammatory omega-6 fats. Add preservatives like nitrates and sulfites, and the damage intensifies. Each slice of processed meat delivers a cocktail of pro-inflammatory compounds that your body struggles to detoxify. Over time, these compounds accumulate, increasing oxidative stress, the imbalance between free radicals and antioxidants in your body. That imbalance doesn't stay confined to your digestive tract. It seeps into your joints, attacking the delicate membranes that line them. Some people may wonder why, if these foods are so harmful, they're still considered safe. The answer lies in the difference between acute toxicity and chronic inflammation. These foods won't poison you overnight. They won't send you to the emergency room after one meal. Their power lies in consistency, the way they slowly manipulate your immune system over years until pain becomes your new normal. It's not about what you eat occasionally, it's about what you eat repeatedly. Let's take a closer look at how this repetition shapes your biology. Every time you consume an inflammatory food, your immune system releases a wave of cytokines. These molecules are designed to defend, to heal short-term injuries. But in chronic exposure, they stay active even when there's no threat to neutralize. Imagine a neighborhood alarm that never stops ringing. Eventually, your immune system becomes desensitized, confused, and exhausted. It starts attacking healthy tissues simply because it doesn't know where the danger is anymore. In your joints, that means the protective synovial lining becomes the target. As this lining breaks down, joint fluid thickens, friction increases, and cartilage begins to deteriorate. You might notice this as occasional soreness after sitting too long, or swelling after gardening, or a dull ache that intensifies in cold weather. At first, it's easy to dismiss, just aging, you tell yourself. But beneath that discomfort, Your immune system is waging a war it can't win as long as the enemy, those foods, keeps arriving. Even beverages can play a role. Alcohol, particularly in excess, amplifies inflammation by generating free radicals in the liver and depleting antioxidants. But what surprises many people is that even small nightly amounts can interfere with recovery, especially when combined with sugary mixes or processed snacks. Meanwhile, sugary sodas, even the diet ones, cause sharp hormonal fluctuations that affect not just blood sugar, but cortisol, your body's stress hormone. Elevated cortisol weakens collagen synthesis, slows healing, and increases fat storage, especially around organs. That fat tissue itself becomes metabolically active, releasing even more inflammatory cytokines into circulation. It's a domino effect. One poor food choice doesn't just affect digestion. It ripples through the entire system, from the gut to the joints to the brain. That's why some people notice that on days they eat poorly, their pain feels sharper, their thinking slower, their energy dimmer. It's not coincidence, it's chemistry in motion, and still the illusion persists that aging alone is responsible. But inflammation is not an inevitable part of aging. It's an adaptive response gone rogue. Even in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, your body has the capacity to reduce inflammation dramatically if you stop feeding it the triggers. Yet, the modern food landscape makes that incredibly difficult. Walk through any supermarket, and you'll see how hidden these triggers are. Low-fat salad dressings loaded with corn syrup, high-protein snacks cooked in inflammatory oils, whole grain breads bleached and re-enriched with chemicals. Every aisle offers a new disguise, but the problem runs even deeper, into the psychological comfort food provides. For many people, the foods causing the most inflammation are the ones tied to emotional memories. The sweet roll your mother baked, the creamy pasta that brings nostalgia, the evening wine that signals relaxation. It's not just the chemistry of the food that keeps you attached, it's the chemistry of memory. Your brain associates those foods with safety, reward, and love. So when you try to give them up, you're not just breaking a dietary habit, you're breaking a psychological pattern. That's why awareness alone isn't enough. It must be paired with understanding and compassion. But understanding the risk is the key to transformation. Because once you see how these foods truly behave in your body, you can no longer pretend they're harmless. You begin to notice the subtle connections, how joint pain flares after a weekend of indulgence, or how stiffness lingers after certain meals. You start connecting dots that your doctor might overlook, because lab results don't always capture the daily inflammation you feel. This self-awareness becomes your most powerful diagnostic tool. Let's return briefly to one more deceptive category, artificial sweeteners. For years they were marketed as the perfect solution for cutting sugar, but modern research shows that they disrupt gut microbiota, impair glucose tolerance, and trigger inflammation indirectly. Aspartame, for instance, breaks down into methanol and formaldehyde, both known irritants. Sucralose, found in many zero-calorie products, damages beneficial gut bacteria and increases intestinal permeability. The result is the same leaky gut process that allows inflammation to spread. So even when people think they're making healthier choices, they may be trading one trigger for another. The cumulative effect of these foods is staggering. Studies now suggest that diet-driven inflammation contributes to nearly half of all arthritis cases worldwide. But it's not just about pain. Chronic joint inflammation affects balance, posture, sleep, and even mood. The cytokines that inflame your knees can also cross the blood-brain barrier, influencing neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine. That's why prolonged inflammation often leads to fatigue, anxiety, or mild depression. The pain isn't just in your body, it's in your chemistry, your energy, your spirit. Yet, it's not all bad news, because if food can cause inflammation, it can also calm it. The same pathways that respond negatively to certain compounds also respond positively to others. Remove the triggers, and your immune system recalibrates. The body's natural intelligence begins to shine through again, but before you can rebuild, you must first clear the foundation, and that means confronting the full reality of these foods' risks. In the next phase, we'll open that window even wider. You'll see what happens inside your joints at the cellular level, how every molecule of these inflammatory foods alters your body's chemistry. You'll witness how circulation slows, how tissues suffocate, and how cartilage cries for relief. It may sound unsettling, but knowledge is the first step toward healing. And once you truly understand the impact, you'll never look at your plate the same way again. Because inflammation doesn't just steal comfort, it steals time. Time you could be spending moving freely, laughing, exploring, living. But awareness turns time back into your ally, and soon we'll move toward reclaiming it, one informed choice at a time. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine your joints not as rigid pieces of bone and cartilage, but as living, breathing worlds of motion. Every time you take a step, bend your knee, or reach for a cup, millions of microscopic interactions occur in perfect harmony. Cartilage cushions your bones like a soft layer of velvet. Synovial fluid flows between them, glistening like liquid glass, carrying oxygen, nutrients, and lubrication to every corner of the joint. It's a silent symphony, movement without friction, life without pain. But when hidden inflammation begins to take root, that symphony starts to lose its rhythm. The melody turns uneven, the harmony strained. What was once effortless begins to feel fragile, heavy, uncertain. Inside each joint, inflammation begins quietly, at the cellular level. It starts with the activation of your immune system, often triggered by the foods and chemicals you consume. Certain molecules from those foods, oxidized fats, ages, excess sugars, are identified by your body as foreign invaders. Your immune system responds the same way it would to an infection. It sends white blood cells to attack. These cells release inflammatory chemicals like TNF-alpha, interleukin-1, and interleukin-6. For short-term injury, these are life-saving. They remove damaged tissue and stimulate healing. But when the trigger never goes away, when every meal keeps feeding it, these chemicals never stop circulating. They become permanent residents in your bloodstream, bathing your joints in a constant low-grade chemical fire. Over time, this fire begins to reshape the landscape inside your joints. The synovial membrane, the thin lining that protects and nourishes your cartilage, starts to thicken. The immune cells that should only appear temporarily now stay there, releasing enzymes that erode the cartilage surface. Imagine the smooth, glassy layer that once cushioned your bones slowly being sanded down. Each movement you make, every step you take, becomes a little less fluid. The bones draw closer, the friction grows, and the once silent glide becomes a grind. It's a process you can't see, but your body feels it long before the pain sets in. You wake up one morning and your fingers don't close as easily. Your knees ache after a short walk. You tell yourself it's stiffness from sleep or weather. But beneath that stiffness, millions of immune cells are busy reshaping your joint environment, tearing down old tissue, laying down scar tissue, and flooding the area with inflammatory fluid. This is what doctors refer to as synovitis. It's the earliest stage of inflammatory joint damage, and it's happening far more often than people realize, especially in those over 50, whose systems are already struggling to regulate inflammation. As this continues, your cartilage begins to thin. Without its cushion, the bones beneath it start to bear more direct pressure. Microscopic cracks form in the bone, releasing fragments of collagen and calcium into the joint fluid. These fragments act like splinters, further aggravating the immune system. The result is a self-perpetuating loop. Inflammation damages tissue, tissue damage releases particles, particles trigger more inflammation. The pain you feel isn't just mechanical, it's chemical. It's your immune system trapped in a cycle it can no longer control. Now, let's zoom out for a moment. Because while this is happening locally in your joints, systemically your body is under siege. Chronic inflammation alters the way your liver processes fat and sugar. It thickens your blood slightly, slows oxygen delivery, and interferes with hormone signaling. Even your adrenal glands, which control your stress response, begin to fatigue from the constant demand to release cortisol, your natural anti-inflammatory hormone. Over time, cortisol resistance develops. That means even when your body tries to fight inflammation, it can't do it effectively anymore. The fires keep burning, and your resilience weakens. At this stage, inflammation doesn't stay isolated. It travels through your bloodstream looking for weak spots, old injuries, tight muscles, fatigued tendons. That's why some people describe their pain as moving or flaring up in different places. It's not random, it's the inflammation following patterns of vulnerability. And if you've lived an active life, if you've ever sprained an ankle, strained a knee, or worked a physically demanding job, those areas become natural magnets for inflammatory molecules. Now, visualize what's happening inside your knees, one of the most common sites of inflammatory pain. With every step, your knee supports up to 4 times your body weight. That means a 160-pound person is putting over 600 pounds of pressure through each knee when climbing stairs. Under normal circumstances, cartilage absorbs that pressure effortlessly, but when inflammation has weakened it, the pressure becomes destructive. The cartilage starts to fray at the edges, small cracks deepen, and the protective layer thins. The joint space on X-rays begins to narrow, a silent visual confirmation of years of inflammatory wear. Eventually, bone meets bone. That's when you hear the creaks, feel the grinding, and notice the loss of mobility. But even before it reaches that point, the inflammatory process is draining your energy. The chemicals that flood your joints don't stay there. They travel to your brain, influencing neurotransmitters responsible for focus, mood, and sleep. That's why so many people with chronic joint inflammation also struggle with fatigue, low mood, or brain fog. It's not a coincidence that it's systemic inflammation. It doesn't just age your body, it ages your mind. In one sense, your body is trying to protect you. Pain is a warning system, a signal designed to say, something here isn't right. But in chronic inflammation, that signal becomes distorted. Your nerves become hypersensitive. Even normal movement feels like damage. And because your immune system never gets the message to stand down, your body remains in constant alert mode. You're living inside a low-level emergency that never ends. Now imagine how this cycle changes your daily life. You wake up stiff, you move slower. The simple act of getting dressed takes longer. You think twice before walking long distances or kneeling to pick something up. You stop exercising because it hurts, and without exercise, your muscles weaken. Weaker muscles mean less support for your joints, which increases pain even more. Before long, your world starts to shrink. You avoid stairs. You say no to invitations that involve walking or standing. The pain doesn't just live in your joints anymore. It lives in your choices. And yet the heartbreaking truth is that all of this is preventable, because inflammation is not a one-way street. The very same processes that amplify pain can be reversed when the triggers are removed. But before healing begins, there's often a moment of realization, a clear vision of what's actually happening inside. Let's look closer at that process. Inside the joint, cell by cell. When inflammatory foods enter your system, they cause an overproduction of free radicals, unstable molecules that damage cells. In your joints, this oxidative stress targets the chondrocytes, the specialized cells responsible for producing and maintaining cartilage. Damaged chondrocytes produce less collagen and proteoglycan, the 2 building blocks of healthy cartilage. Without them, your cartilage loses elasticity and hydration. It becomes brittle, fragile, and prone to cracks. Every movement now sends microshocks through the joint, further stimulating inflammation. Meanwhile, your synovial fluid, that clear, viscous lubricant, becomes cloudy and acidic. Instead of nourishing your joint, it starts corroding it. Studies show that in people with chronic inflammation, synovial fluid often contains higher levels of inflammatory cytokines and lower levels of hyaluronic acid, the molecule that gives it its smooth texture. Think of it like oil in a car engine turning into sludge. The more you move, the more damage occurs, because the fluid can no longer protect the parts it was meant to. And yet your body never stops trying to fix the damage. It sends in fibroblasts, cells that build scar tissue, to reinforce weakened areas. But scar tissue is stiff, not smooth. It doesn't glide like cartilage. It catches. It sticks. That's why your joints can feel like they lock up. The very repair mechanism your body uses ends up restricting motion further. Over time, the joint capsule thickens and your range of motion decreases. What used to feel like stiffness begins to feel like limitation. But inflammation affects more than just the mechanics. It changes your biochemistry. Your blood becomes slightly more acidic, your lymphatic flow slows, and waste products accumulate in the tissues. This is why inflammation often feels like heaviness, as if your joints are weighed down. That sensation isn't imagined. It's your body struggling to clear debris, like a city whose garbage collection has stopped. The longer the inflammation persists, the more that waste accumulates. At this point, many people turn to pain relievers, NSAIDs or corticosteroids, to silence the symptoms. These can provide short-term relief, but they don't address the root. In fact, prolonged use can harm the very tissues they're meant to protect. NSAIDs, for instance, can reduce blood flow to cartilage, slowing healing. Corticosteroids, when used repeatedly, can weaken connective tissue and increase the risk of further degeneration. It's like turning off a fire alarm without putting out the fire. The smoke remains, the heat continues, and the structure weakens from within. Now imagine this cycle continuing for years. Every meal that fuels inflammation adds to the damage. Every missed opportunity for movement tightens the joints further. But even here, inside the worst of it, your body still carries the blueprint for recovery. The same immune system that causes inflammation also knows how to calm it. The same cells that attack tissue can rebuild it. All they need is the right environment. One free of constant triggers, one nourished by anti-inflammatory signals. When you begin to remove those triggers, when you replace processed oils with olive or avocado oil, sugar with fiber-rich fruit, refined grains with whole unprocessed sources, something remarkable begins to happen. Within days, your cytokine levels begin to drop. Within weeks, your cartilage begins to receive better nutrient flow. Within months, inflammation markers in your blood decline, and the stiffness you once believed was permanent begins to ease. But the transformation isn't just physical. When inflammation subsides, your mood improves, your energy rises, your clarity returns. Because the inflammation that lives in your joints is the same inflammation that clouds your brain and drains your motivation. It's all one system, one conversation your body is constantly having with itself. The moment that conversation shifts from alarm to calm, healing begins, not just in your joints but in your life still. It's crucial to understand just how powerful food is in this equation. Each bite can be either a whisper of healing or a spark of destruction. And for someone over 50, every choice carries more weight because the body's natural resilience is slower to respond. But slower doesn't mean gone. It means deliberate action matters more than ever. So if you could see inside your body, if you could watch the inflammation fade, the blood flow return, the cartilage repair itself, you'd never doubt your ability to heal again. You'd see your joints not as victims of age, but as reflections of daily choices. You'd understand that the pain you feel today is not destiny, it's data. It's your body's way of asking for change. In the next phase, that's exactly what we'll explore. How relief begins. You'll learn what foods and habits can actively reverse this damage, cool the fires, and bring back flexibility you thought was gone for good. Because while inflammation has power, your choices have greater power still. Imagine waking up one morning and realizing that the stiffness you've carried for years has softened. You stretch, and instead of the familiar ache, there's lightness. Movement that feels smoother, easier, almost forgotten. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. Because when you remove the foods that feed inflammation and replace them with those that heal, your body begins an extraordinary process of renewal. It's as if every cell takes a deep breath and finally exhales. That heavy, swollen feeling starts to lift. The dull pain that shadowed your mornings begins to fade. This is what relief feels like. Not the artificial quiet that comes from painkillers, but the deep, natural silence of healing. Your body was designed for this. Even after 50, even after decades of wear and tear, your joints retain the remarkable ability to repair themselves. The key is to give them the right tools. Nourishment that calms the immune system instead of provoking it. Foods that cool the fire rather than feeding it. Think of this phase as rebuilding the garden you cleared in the previous stages. The weeds of inflammation are gone. Now it's time to plant seeds of resilience. Let's begin with what truly soothes your body. Whole, unprocessed foods rich in natural anti-inflammatory compounds. Take the omega-3 fatty acids found in salmon, sardines, flax seeds, and walnuts. These fats are like firefighters in your bloodstream. They balance the overactive omega-6s that drive inflammation and instead promote the production of resolvins and protectins, molecules that literally signal your immune system to stop fighting. Within weeks of increasing omega-3 intake, studies show measurable reductions in joint pain, morning stiffness, and swelling. But the effect isn't just physical. Omega-3s also calm the brain's response to inflammation, improving mood and mental clarity. The same molecules that cool your knees also brighten your mind. Next, consider antioxidants, nature's built-in defense system. When you eat berries, leafy greens, colorful vegetables, or spices like turmeric and ginger, you're flooding your body with compounds that neutralize free radicals. These unstable molecules, left unchecked, damage your joint cells and fuel inflammation. But antioxidants disarm them, restoring balance. Turmeric, for example, contains curcumin, a compound so potent that researchers compare its anti-inflammatory effect to certain pharmaceutical drugs, but without the side effects. It works by blocking NF-κB, a protein complex that acts like a master switch for inflammation. When NF-κB is turned off, your body's inflammatory alarm finally goes silent, and you feel that silence in your joints, in your energy, in the way you move through the day. Ginger offers another form of relief. Its compounds, gingerols and shogaols, inhibit the same enzymes, CoX and LOX, targeted by common pain relievers. But instead of blocking them harshly, ginger modulates them gently, restoring harmony without harming the stomach or liver. Drinking ginger tea daily, or adding fresh ginger to meals, can significantly reduce pain scores in people with osteoarthritis and rheumatoid conditions. This is the beauty of food as medicine. It doesn't just treat, it teaches your body how to heal. Another crucial ally is leafy greens, spinach, kale, Swiss chard, collards, all abundant in magnesium, folate, and vitamin K. These nutrients help regulate calcium deposits and support bone health. Vitamin K, in particular, plays a double role. It strengthens bones while preventing calcium from building up in soft tissues like arteries and joints. In other words, it keeps your body flexible, both literally and figuratively. The magnesium in greens relaxes muscles, improves circulation, and reduces the release of stress hormones that can fuel inflammation. Every forkful of greens is a quiet act of restoration. Now, let's talk about something less obvious but deeply transformative: your gut. Remember how inflammation often begins there? Repairing your gut means repairing your immune system. And the best way to do that is by nurturing the trillions of bacteria that live within you. They are not passive passengers, they are your allies. When you feed them fiber, from vegetables, legumes, fruits, and whole grains, they produce short-chain fatty acids like butyrate. These compounds strengthen your gut lining, reduce permeability, and directly lower inflammation in the bloodstream. But when you starve them with processed foods or artificial sweeteners, harmful bacteria take over, producing toxins that perpetuate the cycle. So relief doesn't just come from what you remove, it comes from what you feed. A healthy gut is like fertile soil. When it thrives, everything above it flourishes. Fermented foods are particularly powerful here. Kefir, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, and plain yogurt with live cultures. They introduce beneficial bacteria directly into your system, restoring balance after years of imbalance. But not all fermented foods are equal. You want those made naturally, without excess salt or sugar. Over time, this microbial diversity reshapes your immune system's personality. It becomes calmer, wiser, less reactive. The result? Less pain, less swelling, and a sense of equilibrium you may not have felt in years. Hydration, too, plays a quiet but essential role in relief. Joints depend on water for lubrication. Dehydrated cartilage becomes brittle, prone to damage. But when you drink enough, not just water, but mineral-rich fluids like herbal teas or broths, your synovial fluid becomes more viscous, more protective. Think of it as oiling the hinges of your body. You move better, feel lighter, breathe easier. Many people underestimate this simple truth. Sometimes the difference between pain and comfort is just a few glasses of water away. Now let's address movement, because true relief is not only about what you eat, but how you move. Gentle, consistent movement encourages circulation delivers nutrients to the joints, and clears away waste. Even slow walks or low-impact exercises like swimming, cycling, or yoga can dramatically reduce inflammation markers in the blood. It's counterintuitive. You might think movement worsens pain, but in reality, immobility is what stiffens joints. Every step you take signals your body to produce more synovial fluid, to keep the machinery of movement alive. Over time, motion becomes medicine. Rest is another piece of this puzzle. Chronic inflammation disrupts sleep, and poor sleep intensifies inflammation. It's a cruel loop. But once you start supporting your body with anti-inflammatory nutrition and gentle movement, sleep often improves naturally. Deeper, longer sleep gives your joints the time they need to repair microscopic damage. During those quiet hours, your body produces growth hormone, collagen, and antioxidants that rebuild tissue. That's why many people who change their diet report not just less pain, but waking up with a clearer mind, lighter mood, and renewed motivation. There's something profoundly hopeful about realizing that your body is not working against you. It's working for you. It's been trying to heal all along. The pain was never punishment, it was communication. And once you start listening, the conversation changes. You begin to notice small victories, bending your fingers without hesitation, standing up without bracing yourself, walking farther before needing to rest. Each one is a sign that the tide is turning. But relief also requires patience. Just as inflammation built up over years, its reversal unfolds gradually. Some days you'll feel immense progress, others may feel slower. That's normal. Healing is not a straight line, it's a rhythm. The key is consistency. Each day of choosing whole foods, staying hydrated, and moving mindfully accumulates. Slowly, invisibly at first, your cells begin to shift from a state of defense to a state of repair. To support that process even further, certain herbs and spices can amplify your progress. Boswellia serrata, known as Indian frankincense, has been used for centuries in Ayurvedic medicine to treat joint inflammation. Modern research confirms that its active compounds, boswellic acids, block the same inflammatory pathways targeted by NSAIDs, but without harming the stomach or kidneys. When combined with curcumin and ginger, its effects multiply. These are nature's anti-inflammatories, precise, intelligent, and gentle. Green tea is another hidden gem. Its polyphenols, especially EGCG, reduce oxidative stress and protect cartilage cells from degradation. Drinking 1 to 2 cups a day can significantly lower C-reactive protein, a key marker of inflammation. The warmth of the tea soothes, but its chemistry heals, and as you replace sugary beverages with green tea, you're not just reducing inflammation, you're teaching your body to find comfort in nourishment rather than stimulation. Even dark chocolate, when rich in cacao and free of added sugar, carries anti-inflammatory power. Its flavonoids improve circulation, support the heart, and reduce oxidative stress. A small piece savored slowly can be both indulgence and medicine. Healing doesn't mean deprivation, it means choosing pleasure that sustains rather than drains you. As your body begins to heal, you may notice other changes too. Your skin looks clearer, your mind feels sharper, your digestion improves. That's because inflammation is interconnected. When it subsides in one area, the entire system benefits. You might even notice weight loss, not from restriction, but from balance. When inflammation declines, hormones like insulin and leptin begin to function properly again, regulating appetite and metabolism naturally. The body that was once in crisis mode starts thriving again. And beyond the physical, relief carries an emotional dimension. Chronic pain creates fear, fear of movement, fear of aging, fear of decline. But as that pain fades, confidence returns. You start to trust your body again. That trust transforms your relationship with health. You no longer eat out of habit or restriction. You eat with purpose. You move not to punish your body, but to celebrate it. Each choice becomes an affirmation of life. In this phase, hope becomes tangible. The science, the lifestyle, the nutrition, they all converge into a feeling. It's the realization that you're not at the mercy of your joints, your genes, or your age. You are, in many ways, your own healer. The foods that once harmed you have been replaced by those that serve you. The inflammation that once defined your mornings now becomes a memory, and what replaces it is something quieter, steadier, balance. This is the essence of the relief phase, the transition from reaction to regeneration. Your immune system no longer attacks, it rebuilds. Your joints no longer protest, they cooperate. Your body no longer whispers warnings, it hums with vitality. This isn't the end of a journey, it's the middle, the bridge between damage and empowerment. But it's the point where most people finally see proof that healing is not just possible. It's inevitable when you give your body what it's been asking for all along. In the final phase, we'll go even deeper, beyond physical healing, into empowerment. Because relief is only the beginning. The goal is not just to move without pain, but to move with purpose, to live with confidence, to age with strength and peace. And when you reach that stage, inflammation is no longer your enemy. It becomes your teacher, the reminder that everything you do, every bite, every breath, every thought, carries the power to heal or to harm. Awareness gives you choice, and choice gives you freedom. There comes a moment in every healing journey when you realize something profound, that you're no longer chasing relief, you're embodying it. The quiet hum of inflammation that once ruled your days has turned into a distant echo. The pain that used to define your mornings no longer dictates the rhythm of your life. You start to move differently, not just because your joints feel better, but because your mind does. You no longer move to avoid pain, you move because you can. That's empowerment. It's not about returning to who you were before inflammation took hold. It's about becoming someone wiser, calmer, and more in tune with your body than ever before. Empowerment begins with understanding that aging is not decay, it's adaptation. Every cell in your body is constantly rewriting itself, responding to how you live, what you eat, how you think, and what you believe. The foods that once inflamed you were never destiny, they were choices. And the moment you replaced them with healing ones, you changed the conversation inside your body. Inflammation was never your enemy. It was your body's cry for alignment. And now, instead of reacting in frustration, you respond with wisdom. Each day you choose balance, your body rewards you with vitality. The mornings that once began with hesitation now begin with intention. You open your eyes, stretch your limbs, and feel not stiffness but gratitude. Because you've seen both sides, the exhaustion of inflammation and the freedom of healing. That awareness becomes your compass. You no longer eat unconsciously, move mechanically, or live reactively. You live with purpose, knowing every small act contributes to the architecture of your long-term health. Empowerment is not just about what you put on your plate, it's about how you see yourself. Many people over 50 are taught to expect decline, to believe that pain, fatigue, and stiffness are inevitable. But you've learned that the body's language is not resignation, it's communication. Pain was never the end, it was a message asking for change. And by listening, you've done something remarkable. You've transformed pain into power. You've turned awareness into action, and action into transformation. This is where a new mindset begins. You no longer think in terms of restriction, but in terms of nourishment. You stop asking, what can I cut out? And start asking, what can I give my body that helps it thrive? That shift changes everything. It removes guilt from your relationship with food and replaces it with gratitude. You begin to view each meal as a conversation, not punishment or reward, but partnership. You understand that your body doesn't need perfection, it needs consistency. It doesn't need extreme diets or endless rules, it needs respect. And the more you respect it, the more it responds. Your body, after all, is listening. Every system, your digestion, circulation, immunity, and joints, functions as part of a single intelligent network. When you eat anti-inflammatory foods, you're not just healing your knees. You're sending a signal of harmony through every cell. Your liver processes toxins more efficiently. Your gut microbiome grows more diverse. Your brain clears the fog that once blurred your thoughts. You sleep deeper. You wake clearer. You laugh more easily. Life begins to expand again, one small change at a time. This expansion isn't about chasing youth. It's about reclaiming vitality. Youth is fleeting, but vitality is renewable. It's not stored in your muscles or your skin. It's generated from within. It's the energy that flows freely when inflammation no longer clogs your system. And that energy is contagious. You notice it in the way people look at you. They see lightness where there used to be strain. They ask what changed, expecting a new supplement or a secret treatment. But you know the truth. What changed was understanding. Understanding that your body isn't fragile, it's responsive. Understanding that health isn't something to chase, it's something to cultivate. Understanding that inflammation wasn't a curse, it was an invitation to slow down, to reconnect, to rebuild. This is the essence of empowerment, living from a place of trust rather than fear. In this phase, you stop measuring your health in numbers alone. You begin to measure it in moments. The moment you rise from bed without hesitation, the moment you realize you've gone the whole day without thinking about pain, the moment you take a walk and feel joy instead of effort. These are milestones, not captured by tests or charts, but written in experience. They're proof that your body is not defined by age, but by adaptation. But empowerment also carries responsibility. Once you've felt what true health feels like, you can't unsee it. You can't go back to ignorance or convenience without remembering what it cost you. This awareness is your guardrail, the invisible strength that keeps you aligned. It's what makes you pause before reaching for something processed, not out of fear, but out of self-respect. It's what guides you to rest when your body asks, to move when it craves motion, and to breathe when stress begins to rise. You become fluent in your body's language, and because you've lived through the pain of inflammation, you carry empathy for others who are still in it. Empowerment gives you the gift of perspective. You no longer look at health as personal achievement, but as shared wisdom. You become the calm voice in someone else's storm, the person who says, "I've been there, and you can heal too," because you know it's true. You've seen your own body regenerate. You've watched inflammation recede not through miracles but through mindfulness. At this stage, your focus expands beyond the body. You begin to see how emotions, environment, and even thoughts can trigger or calm inflammation. Chronic stress, for instance, can raise cortisol levels, which fuel inflammatory responses. But now you understand how to counterbalance it through breath, stillness, and gratitude. The same nervous system that once lived in survival mode learns to rest. You find peace in simple things: a slow morning, a nourishing meal, a deep conversation. These moments aren't distractions, they're medicine. Sleep becomes sacred again. Movement becomes joy again. Food becomes connection again. These are the hallmarks of empowerment. Not the absence of struggle, but the presence of harmony. And harmony, once established, ripples outward. It shapes not only your health, but your relationships, your mood, your sense of meaning. You start to realize that healing isn't about returning to an old version of yourself. It's about evolving into one that's more aware, more grounded, and more alive. The science supports what your experience confirms. The choices you make in your 50s, 60s, and 70s have the power to rewrite your biological future. Your cells renew every 7 to 10 years. That means within a decade, nearly every part of you can be rebuilt with the right environment. When you feed your body clean, anti-inflammatory nutrients, you're literally building a new body from the inside out. One made of better material, stronger cartilage, clearer blood, calmer chemistry. Aging stops feeling like a countdown and starts feeling like an evolution. And this is where purpose enters the picture. When you're no longer fighting pain, your energy is freed for creation. The hobbies you abandoned, the adventures you postponed, the goals you delayed, they become possible again. Pain once limited your world, healing expands it. Empowerment means returning to life with curiosity. You walk more, laugh deeper, travel farther. You rediscover things you thought you'd outgrown: dancing, gardening, hiking, playing with grandchildren, not as luxuries but as extensions of health. You begin to appreciate that vitality is not found in grand gestures, but in small consistencies. The decision to cook with olive oil instead of vegetable oil, the choice to walk after dinner, the pause before reacting in anger, the deep breath before sleep. Every one of these moments builds resilience, chemical, physical, emotional. Your body keeps score, but now it's keeping score of healing. In the past, inflammation felt like something happening to you. Now you see it as something you can influence. That's freedom. The moment you realize your body isn't fate, it's feedback. And when you listen to that feedback, you move through life differently. You don't chase trends or quick fixes. You invest in simplicity, real food, clean water, sunlight, movement, connection. You trust the basics because you've seen how powerful they are. This mindset doesn't end with you. It influences how you show up for others. When your energy rises, so does your capacity to care. You become more patient, more grounded, more alive in your relationships. People around you feel it, your calm presence, your quiet confidence. It's not arrogance, it's assurance, the kind that comes from knowing you've walked through the fire of inflammation and come out stronger. And that strength isn't just physical, it's emotional. You've learned that the path to healing is also the path to self-respect. You've learned that your body's limits are not weaknesses but teachers. You've learned that slowing down doesn't mean giving up, it means tuning in. These lessons extend far beyond diet or exercise. They shape your philosophy of aging. You begin to see aging not as loss, but as refinement, a gradual stripping away of what doesn't serve you, leaving only what's essential. You learn to protect your peace like you protect your joints, by avoiding what inflames you. Sometimes that means saying no to toxic foods. Other times, it means saying no to toxic situations, because inflammation isn't only physical, it's emotional. Resentment, stress, and negativity can inflame the mind just as processed foods inflame the body. But the tools are the same: awareness, balance, and nourishment. Just as you've learned to soothe your body, you learn to soothe your thoughts, and with time, that inner calm becomes your new baseline. You start each day not wondering if pain will come, but knowing you can handle whatever does, because you've built trust, not in luck, not in genetics, but in yourself. That's the ultimate empowerment. Knowing that your health isn't a mystery, it's a mirror. It reflects what you give it, and now you give it care. You may still have days when you feel tired, when your joints remind you of the past, but those moments no longer define you. You've learned that health is not perfection, it's balance. And balance doesn't mean never falling. It means always returning to center. The foods you eat, the thoughts you think, the movements you make, they all bring you back to that center, that quiet place where inflammation has no home. As you move forward, your story becomes one of confidence. You no longer whisper to yourself, "I hope I can stay healthy." You say, "I know how to stay healthy." You've earned that certainty. Through awareness, action, and patience, you've turned the pain of inflammation into the wisdom of prevention. And that wisdom is something you carry not only for yourself, but for everyone who looks to you as proof that healing after 50 is not just possible, it's powerful. So as this journey closes, let it not be an ending, but a new rhythm of living. Keep feeding your body with compassion. Keep moving with grace. Keep choosing calm over chaos. And remember, every meal, every breath, every moment of stillness is another chance to rebuild. You are not at war with your body. You are its ally. You are its caretaker. You are its teacher. And your body, in return, will do what it's always wanted to do: heal, thrive, and carry you into each new chapter with strength and serenity. Because life after 50 isn't about holding on to youth. It's about stepping into mastery. The mastery of yourself, your health, and your peace. In that mastery, inflammation loses its grip. Pain loses its voice. And what remains is clarity, the calm assurance that your body, your choices, and your life are finally in harmony.